Now, if we don't get Shedeur Sanders later on in the draft, of course, as we've talked about several times, that the Raiders are going to draft a quarterback in this draft. It's going to happen. Now, how much are they going to reach for one, or how late are they going to draft one, depending on which one they like, that's going to fall to the Raiders. And I think there are two quarterbacks that around the second, maybe the third to fourth round, the Raiders are going to start to two quarterbacks. One of them, Will Howard, and of course, the obvious reason, the connection with Chip Kelly and what Chip Kelly was able to do with Will Howard at Ohio State, helping them win a national championship. There's no doubt that there's that connection there. And with the build that Will Howard has, he's very similar to a Josh Allen. Very big, very strong, arm talent and technique and accuracy, especially if, again, we have a Geno Smith. Given the time, Will Howard, if he can develop, be coached up, change some mechanics, get used to the NFL and throw it, he's going to be a very good quarterback. And again, with Chip Kelly, who helped him come a long way. And I think that would be a really good pick for the Raiders, somewhere within the third, maybe fourth round, depending on how the draft is flowing and how these quarterbacks are falling. Of course, again, Will Howard, because of the connection with Chip Kelly, I think makes a lot of sense. And Drew even pointed that out on the recent video that he put out with the reaction to Geno Smith going to the Raiders. A second quarterback, and I've been watching a little bit more of these mock drafts, and some of them focused around the Raiders where, if they did go for a quarterback, who are they looking at? And I think an interesting pick, depending, again, where it falls and how the draft is landing or flowing, in fact, Jalen Milroe could be a very interesting quarterback for the Raiders because of his mobility and how smart and intellect he is. And also, too, again, he doesn't have to be a starter right off the bat. He could have time to develop, work on his mechanics, work on reading a playbook and getting really all that information into where he then could step into a situation where he's ready to go. A player that he reminds me of, and I'm not going to say it's a direct parallel. Now, granted, in terms of size and stature, kind of similar, but in terms of very similar in the sense of the expectations when they were both drafted and where one of them is at now, I could see Jalen Milroe being similar to how the path of Jalen Hurts was. Because when Jalen Hurts was drafted, again, out of Oklahoma, originally was with Alabama, transferred to Oklahoma, had a really good season. Jalen Hurts was seen as a project quarterback. Is he have the arm strength for the NFL? He's a great leader, but is that enough? All this about Jalen Hurts when he first came out of the NFL. He didn't start his rookie year. He was a year 2 starter. He had a lot of growing pains, but each year he progressed and got slightly better and slightly better and slightly better. And to now, Jalen Hurts, again, Super Bowl winning quarterback, Super Bowl MVP winner as well. Usually the last few seasons he's been on the cusp of being an NFL MVP as well for his team, because really he is the catalyst that's helping the Eagles move forward. I can see a world where Jalen Milroe, similar, and again, I'm not saying there's an identical parallel. They're similar, very similar builds, similar situation where questioning the arm talent, questioning whether or not that he can play in the NFL or make all the throws. But again, you give him an opportunity to develop that, be coached up with that, fix that without the pressure of you need to start day one. And let's see what happens, because in terms of being a leader and being intelligent, Jalen Milroe is right there, which is why I think Jalen Milroe could be in a similar situation of success if given the right coaching, the right mentorship, could be in a very similar situation to what we just saw with Jalen Hurts. Would not be surprised. In fact, Raider Nation, imagine that. If Jalen Milroe, if that was a quarterback that we drafted, developed properly, let's say, again, he is able to improve like we believe he can, like what some of the other scouting reports are, that he just has things that you can't coach, but the things that he can work on, you can coach them up, you can fix those. And let's assume that Jalen Milroe is as similar player, comparable to a Jalen Hurts. Would you want that as your quarterback for the next 10 years? Right now, let's assume Jalen Hurts is available to be on our team for the next 10 years. Would you want something like that? Well, what if that is Jalen Milroe? What if that is Jalen Milroe with the coaching, with the mentorship, with, getting him all situated with his mechanics, and in a system like what Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, the environment that they're going to foster and breed, like Jalen Milroe could be that type of quarterback for us with the right leadership. And I do believe that Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly can do that. That's what is very interesting to me when it comes to the quarterback situation in terms of drafting. Jalen Milroe could be a quarterback that the Raiders get, and it could be the steal of the draft because of what he could mean to us in the future and the success we get because of Jalen Milroe. So that is a little bit of Raider stuff that I did want to kind of address, especially with the Geno Smith. And now what are we going to do with the draft and the sixth pick and overall? I did want to touch base on that. Let me know down below what you guys think, where the Raiders should go with the sixth pick, what quarterback you like. There are some quarterbacks I didn't even throw out there, like Jackson Dart. I've mentioned his name several times on this show, and some people think that he'll go in the first round. Some people think he'll go in the second round. Let me know if the quarterback options that I mentioned for the Raiders are something that you would like, or if you want us to go in a different direction for the sixth pick, let me know.